On his syndicated radio show on Tuesday, Ed Schultz, host of The Ed Show on MSNBC, called conservative talk show host Laura Ingraham a radio slut. This caused a great deal of controversy, as these things tend to do, and ultimately resulted in his suspension from MSNBC Wednesday after a lengthy on-air apology to Ingraham. I'm not going to use this blog to defend or condemn Ed. I'm not going to try and analyze his actions or those of his bosses. That situation is what it is, and it will play out however it's going to play out. On various postings in this blog, on Twitter, in comment pages, and in general conversation, I have referred to Sarah Palin as, among other things, a media skank, and her daughter, Bristol, as a phony abstinence-only whore, media and otherwise. I've called Michelle Bachmann a crazy bitch, Ann Coulter a man, Virginia Fox a homophobic old cunt. I've called Michael Steele and Uncle Tom, Stephen Fetchit, houseboy, house N-word, only I didn't say N-word. I've called Rush Limbaugh a racist junkie with erectile issues, Glenn Beck a paranoid, psychotic, traumatized fat kid with daddy issues. I've called Sean Hannity a punk-ass bitch. I've made less than subtle implications regarding the private sexual orientations of various Republicans in Congress, and I've often referred to the Tea Party as teabaggers, T-tards, coke suckers, only I pronounced it cocksuckers, and my personal favorite, racist, sexist, homophobic, inbred, uneducated, unsophisticated, mentally unstable bigots. At no point has it ever occurred to me to offer any kind of apology, and at no point in my life will it ever occur to me to do so. President Barack Obama, the 44th president of these United States, our first African-American president, has had to endure in the 2.5 years that he's been in office some of the most vile, hateful, racist attacks on his policies, on his character, and even on his person, extending even to his family. He's had a congressman actually heckle him during an address to Congress regarding health care reform. Another congressman spoke of breaking him the way one would break a slave. He's trashed on a daily basis on Fox News and Hate Radio. Glenn Beck accused him of hating white people. He's had to endure the humiliating spectacle of having to produce his birth certificate in order to prove that he is indeed an American. He's had his religious background questioned, his upbringing questioned, even his education questioned. Furthermore, there's a Republican member of Congress who claims that the Matthew Shepard beating was a hoax. Another Republican believes that women should prepare to be raped while defending his anti-abortion stance. A 2010 Senate candidate says that young girls who were impregnated by rape or incest should just make lemonade out of the situation and have the kid rather than abort it. A 2010 GOP candidate for governor of New York sends out racist emails with Obama's picture in it and photos of bestiality to his friends. A conservative gonzo journalist and his girlfriend dress up as a pimp and his hoe, racist in and of itself, in order to infiltrate Acorn and post edited video that implies wrongdoing and ultimately gets them shut down. Another conservative journalist posts an edited video of Shirley Sherrod that implies that she is a racist when the whole video shows the exact opposite. That results in her being fired. At no point was any punishment handed out to any of these people. No apologies were ever offered, no attempt at reconciliation, nothing. Ed Schultz calls Laura Ingraham a radio slut and gets an indefinite suspension. Keith Olbermann gives $7,000 to a couple of Democrats and gets a 2-day suspension and ultimately leaves MSNBC. David Schuster does some work for CNN on the side and he's fired from MSNBC. Our side is always the side that has to play by the rules and apologize for messing up, while the right-wing media and the right-wing polls can do and say and fund whatever and whomever they please with absolutely no consequence or fear thereof. And it is my contention that this heinous double standard of civility and fairness is one that we've created for ourselves in order to create the illusion that we're somehow better than them. All of this because we don't want to be seen as bad people. Well, fellow liberals, I hate to bust your bubble. While we are not bad people, we are hardly saints. And when it comes to our civil discourse, it's time to drop this charade of nobility and morality and admit that we can be just as nasty and just as insulting as the right wing. Indeed, not only is it time for us to admit it, but to embrace it. A few nights ago, when the Ed Schultz story came to light, in a debate with some fellow Twitter followers, I launched a challenge to those who were all bent out of shape that he called Laura Ingraham a hoe and would somehow believe that we're above the muck and the mud that has become our political discourse. I challenged these folks to drop the insults for a week. No digs at Sarah Palin, no use of the word teabaggers to describe the Tea Party, no slams at Fox News, no mentions of Russia's drug use, no insults of conservative politicians, nothing. For an entire week, we should all take this high road that we're so proud of taking and see what happens. The result of that challenge was a considerable drop in my Twitter follower account. In fact, the next day, the usual insults started up again. Check out the hashtag PalinTour slogans on Twitter to see some of the gems that are being lobbed at Sarah Palin. Now, I'm not egotist enough to believe that my drop in followers is a direct result of my challenge. I have quite a few right-wing trolls on my list, and on occasion they purge themselves when they can't take it anymore. Also, Twitter itself has been known to suddenly drop followers for no apparent reason. However, I find it interesting that there are some on our side among us who would rather live under the delusional self-righteous sanctimony that their shit don't stink, rather than face the uncomfortable truth that the pungent odor that they're detecting is their own upper lip. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm in no way defending what Ed Schultz said on his show, nor do I wish to belittle the justifiable anger and disgust people may feel at what was said. Furthermore, I'm not saying that the right wing saying far worse about President Obama, Democrats, and liberals in general in any way justifies us responding in kind. What I am saying is this: if you were all bent out of shape at Ed Schultz for what he said about Laura Ingraham, yet one look at your Twitter stream reveals tweets and retweets of insults against Sarah Palin, her kids, her husband, her family, etc., all as you're claiming that you're somehow better than the right-wingers, not only are you a lying hypocrite, but you're an elitist lying hypocrite. And it's a real shame, too, because in many ways, we are better than the right wing. We care about this planet and the environment and what man is doing to it. They don't. We care about education for our children and health care for our grandparents. They don't. We care about the poor and the middle class and believe that this country has a unique obligation to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. They don't. We respect the rights and the worth of every individual, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, background, or even political affiliation. They don't. We believe in shared sacrifice and that those who prosper the most should also give the most. They don't. They want to take the country back, while we want to take this country forward. And the result of these beliefs is that we, not them, elected our country's first African-American president. I believe that we are sufficiently better than the right-wing nutjobs that we don't need to keep up some phony veneer of civility so that people won't confuse us with the bad guys. In fact, given what the teabagger GOP is trying to do to this country with the breaking of unions and the rollback of abortion rights, we really can't afford to. I've had to deal with bullies for most of my childhood, and the first thing that you learn while dealing with bullies is that when they hit you, you hit them back. You don't worry about being suspended from school or having to stay for detention and write, "I will not hit the bully back" 1,000 times on the blackboard. Bullies don't worry about being seen as bad people because they know that they're bad people, and most of all, they're proud of it. They're not going to stop kicking your ass just because you apologize to them for fighting back. The right-wing GOP in this country are bullies, and they don't care what anyone else thinks of them. And in my opinion, neither should we about us. So yes, I'm going to continue to call Sarah Palin a media skank because that's what she is in my opinion. I'm going to continue to call Michael Steele the Stepin Fetchit of the GOP because that's what he is. And with all due respect and apologies to my transgendered brothers and sisters, Ann Coulter really does look like a dude. And yes, Laura Ingraham is a radio slut, and I will not apologize for saying so.